And we are back, and it is time for the Else Words. This is the portion of the show where we talk about the main topic thing. And this is all about the Cannes Film Festival. And it's also weirdly enough tied to Ready Player One, because I think Steven Spielberg came out and said that he doesn't think Netflix movies should be eligible for the Cannes Film Festival.
I don't know if it was the Cannes Film Festival or awards that are meant for films. So back up. The Cannes Film Festival decided that it would not air movies that are not played in theaters. Which Netflix has some movies that they put in theaters, mostly I think for Oscar consideration.
Yeah.
And some that they don't. And what Netflix has decided is to take a stand and not go to Cannes this year because they feel that their movies should qualify the same as any other movie. And there are others who have made statements like Steven Spielberg, who says that Netflix films shouldn't be eligible for Oscars because the Oscars is an institution about seeing movies in theaters. And it's kind of a old man argument, screaming in clouds, which I do all the time on the show. Of I'm beholden to things the way that they are. I don't think these changes are good, and so I'm going to speak out against them and say, hey, we have this tradition and history and things have always been done this way, and drink from that water fountain over there. I'm not trying to say that Steven Spielberg is being racially discriminate with this. I'm just saying, what an asshole mindset.
Yeah.
Because I make movies that are in theaters, and therefore I'm good at this. And you guys don't make movies for theaters, so you're bad at this. And you shouldn't be celebrated by this, and I should, because I'm still here making movies, even though they're all shit. See Gregor's review of Ready Player One 5 minutes ago. Segment.
Yeah.
And Beats pointing out that's not what he's saying at all. I'm not really saying that he is. I'm fucking being facetious.
So the big part here, honestly, though, is that Cannes, and I'm looking at their rules, and a lot of them make sense. The first rule is that films that have been produced during the 12 months preceding the festival are allowed in. Duh. We're not going to, bring out a movie that that Neil Blomkamp made when he was 12, or Steven Spielberg made when he was 12, on a Super 8 millimeter camera and all that now for this. Well, no, we're not going to do that.
Why?
For a film festival now, it sort of makes sense in that regard. Like, you wouldn't do something old for now. You want to have it.
Here's my point. So you have a film. Let's go back a few years. Film like Boyhood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Boyhood was filmed over a number of years. It was an experimentation of filmmaking. Sure, the project wasn't done until this year, but there are plenty of films that don't get released for years after they are completed.
Yeah.
They get shelved, they get put out later on, and what if one of those things takes off? Is it because it was made in 2016 but not released until 2018 that should disqualify it?
No,
it's a pretty arbitrary thing. If Spielberg finds some magic footage, or what if they put out The Day the Clown Cried? And unbeknownst to all of us who've heard these rumors about it for decades now, it turned out to be a fucking masterpiece, like the way that he always thought it was going to be. And suddenly it's like, holy shit, you got to see this fucking Nazi clown movie, which Taika Waititi is doing instead. But what if that actually happened? Should that movie then be disqualified because it's sat in a vault for years because the audience wasn't prepared for it, or the producers weren't willing to put it out and be brave enough to do it? Or does it get to be stacked up the same thing as everything else? It's like, it's here now, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I wrote Ready Player One in 2014. I didn't. But whatever. And then the movie just got made. But it doesn't count because it was 2014. You dick. You should have jumped on that shit. I want to understand why the rules are the rules, and if they're across the board fair, or if they're just bullshit put in place for some stodgy old fuck in an academy room who's like, nah, I like it this way.
No, hold on, because this first rule, you're jumping down the throat for the first rule. This one makes sense. Now there would be exceptions because of, like, for example, Boyhood. You gave that where it
But
was
would
filmed.
that be an exception?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, where it was filmed over the course of 12 years and stuff like that. It's like I could see that being an exception with it because of what it was accomplishing there, where it would be different.
Because someone arbitrarily decided, oh well, the rules don't quite count in this case. It's a special exception. And that's what I mean. Rules that are so arbitrary are just bullshit.
Well, in that case, all rules are bullshit because they're all arbitrary.
Yes, anarchy, motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's start acting like Nate here and just call for anarchy.
Well, I am gonna say that in the case of this, we're talking about what qualifies as art.
Yeah.
What qualifies as a film? If we're looking at TV shows, what qualifies as a TV show? Do Netflix shows have to be changed from being called television shows because they're not actually aired over a television signal? Although most TV isn't aired over a television signal anymore because a lot of that shit went away when we went digital.
Yeah.
Does nothing on ABC or CBS count as a television show?
Yeah.
Since it's now an HD programming, it comes over an HD antenna.
Now, again,
somewhere in point in time, the rules stayed the same when the mediums changed. And so does a movie still qualify as a movie because it didn't play in a theater? I don't know. I don't know why that's a rule. When shouldn't a movie matter when it touches people's hearts and minds and souls? Shouldn't a movie be qualified by the fact that people actually watched it? How many fucking people sit and watch the troll fucking movie on Netflix with Will Smith in it? Whether or not they liked it, more people watch that shit, or they watch the immediacy of the new Cloverdale after the fucking Super Bowl, then go out to see most Academy Award-winning Best Pictures or Best Picture nominations. More people will sit and watch this shit on Netflix. So why is one more valued than the other?
Now you're hitting at something completely different. You're hitting at film festivals in general.
Yes,
because you can think about it though. There needs to be some different things because I mean, certain movies aren't going to do good at a South by Southwest Film Festival than would at a Toronto International Film Festival.
But not doing good does not mean not allowed to be there.
No, and but what I'm trying to get at, because again, you're striking down at the first rule here. There's 6 other ones.
Yeah, let me get at those.
And well, you can read through and you can just start going through it. But like I'm saying, so that one, it does make sense to me. Rule number 1 makes sense to me, like of something that's being produced over a year. Now there would be some exceptions, but it's more like I look at it like they're looking at it in this regard of you have a movie that's about 6 characters, and you get going and we have to recast one character, but we don't want to redo it. We don't want to lose everything that we've filmed. So it's now 3 years later, and you have 18 people playing these 6 characters. That would get excluded. More than likely would get excluded. Now this is another one that it makes perfect sense for me. Films, because this has been a canned rule forever. Films that have not been released anywhere other than their country of origin. There's a side note of another rule with this where it's Cannes has to be the first festival that they release to. Those 2 make sense because it's more for the judging. Because if you have a movie that's been released, elsewhere and was at, for example, TIFF, which is another big film festival, the Toronto International Film Festival, then that would influence the judges here, or even the Sundance Film Festival. In I think it's in Utah or Colorado. That would influence a lot of the judges here at Cannes. And it's more of we want to be completely clean of, these movies to where we can judge them based on their art and all that. Where you get into some trickier ones where I could see you jumping in on is films that have not been exhibited on the internet. That's the Netflix rule right there. And all that, where, I mean, them much like Amazon, but Amazon more so, Amazon is playing, trying to play nice with the movie theaters. where, with like Manchester by the Sea and The Big Sick, where they had them run in the theaters. Like, it wasn't until DVD release that, or I think even Moonlight was a Netflix show too, where they got into DVD release here in America, that they then ended up on Amazon Prime, and stuff like that. The other one that seems a little weird, but I get it, but still seems weird because it seems like the Oscars go longer with theirs, is Rule 6. If participating in the quote-unquote short film category, films that do not exceed 15, basically you can't go over 15 minutes in length, including the credits. That part makes sense, but I would then go, well, why 15? Why not, 30 or something like that? But it's like, I get the whole point with all the rules. I mean, it's definitely a why, and I feel like we're gonna hit something here with with Netflix pulling out, just saying no, we're not going to do Cannes. There's going to be a lot of notoriety that people look at. Like, you look at Brian Ibbett over at the Morning Stream, where he's one of those guys that for the Oscars he tries to watch every single movie that is nominated for the Oscars, so that he goes in there and goes, no, I don't think that movie should have won. I think this one should have, including the documentaries.
A professional reviewer is not what we're doing, obviously.
No, we're just two horse shit.
And I appreciate that. Movie Go Round that Brett and Nicole do. I forget the name of the co-host. I'm so sorry. Is a great show because I think that they take things far more seriously than, say, what Matt and I do on Pot. And I appreciate both different sides of it. And sometimes just people hanging out talking about if they liked a movie or not. And that's what we do. I do think that it's funny when you see things like the Golden Globes nominating Get Out as a comedy, even though it's not a comedy, but that's what they wanted to put it in as a category because I don't know why. Sometimes these things are just, the rules don't make sense, or they only make sense when they feel like sticking to them, and then other times they don't. When Linda Hunt won Best Actress for The Year Living Dangerously, but she was playing a male character, legitimately, she's an actress, but she could have been nominated for Best Actor. It really is a moment of a gray area where we'll choose how we want to choose. My point is, what it shows is that this lesson of, if you want to get in Cannes, you have to be this. If you want to get in the Oscars, you have to do this. It's a very old-fashioned way of thinking. And while there's something to be said for tradition, there's also something to be said for knowing where the audience is headed now. And does it make the Oscars or Cannes Film Festival or any number of other things less valuable to the current audience of today? People already aren't watching the Oscars in the ways that they used to. They're not fascinated with Hollywood in the same way they used to be. They're as fascinated with fucking reality TV stars as they are actual movie stars. The glamour isn't there. It's more of the rumors and stuff that people are into, the paparazzi schemes. So the whole outlook has changed on these things, and it just feels very weird to me. And so is it better? Is it better to create a new Oscars that is inclusive of these things, that doesn't have these old stigmas of rules? And would it make it more enjoyable to watch if they updated these things instead of having the Academy? And we already know the Academy is mostly bullshit because a lot of the times people don't even watch the films. They watch the ones that they're interested in, they skip over the other ones. So they're making a rating based off of, this is just what I wanted to see, which I would expect that from a review show like this. We're not saying we're watching every goddamn movie. We're not saying we're super Hollywood based or whatever. We're watching stuff that we're interested in. But when you're talking about Oscars and you're in charge of looking at the nominations and saying, with all fairness, you can have your bias of, I like this kind of movie over this kind of movie. But if you don't even watch the movie, you're not even fairly judging it. Yeah. So the idea of what these things do, are they so out of touch that they don't matter? And when I hear stuff like this, it makes me think even more that they don't matter. I don't have an interest. Not that I've ever really did, but I don't have an interest in Cannes Film Festival if they can't even present the idea of why it's important to be in a theater, other than the fact that that's just how it's always been. I don't get it. I
Yeah.
just don't get it. And when
Well,
you
yeah.
see quality content, and I'm not saying that fucking Bright movie with Will Smith and the Trolls was, I didn't hate it. But when you see quality content hitting these things like Amazon and Netflix or HBO or whatever, and I'm sure HBO had to go through these growing pains too of when they were doing shows that were originals and not showing up on the Emmys and stuff for a while. And it took a while because, well, that's a pay TV station. It's not broadcast TV. It's not stuff that everybody can see. You have to pay to get in there. It's got a gatekeeper. So we don't count that. That's probably true that happened then too. I'm more excited for what happens when it opens up than I am to see it closed off, because then I'll know that they're at least choosing from everything as opposed to choosing from a very small vat of stuff as to what is truly the best film or the best director or whatever.
So we're just so you guys know, we're getting this from the Variety.com article, where in there they mention Thierry Frémaux, they're trying my best on that name, the artistic director of Cannes. And Variety asked Ted Sarandos, the Netflix CEO, are you deciding to or not to participate in Cannes this year, or in the Cannes Film Festival? And he said, well, it's not our decision to make. Thierry announced the change in their qualification rules that requires a film to have distribution in France to get in, which is completely contrary. This is where we're getting to the meat of this, of why film festivals even matter, which is completely contrary to the spirit of any film festival in the world. Film festivals are to help films get discovered so that they can get distribution. Under those rules, you cannot release our films day and date to the world like we've released nearly 100 films over the last couple of years. So even besides that, when you look at that, like, there's going to be a lot of films to where I think they're going to back down. I think the Cannes Film Festival is going to back down, and within probably 10 years, they're going to do it because of the fact that long. Yeah,
I mean, the reason why this was done is that the French theater owners and unions protested the inclusion of the films to the director of Cannes, because there's a law in the country that requires movies to not appear in home platforms for 36 months after the theatrical release, which is 3 years. There's a law in France to not have movies shown for the home for 3 years after they're released in theater. So that's already just wackadoo with how people consume content these days. And you know what? I'm gonna point fingers, France. If the Day the Clown Cried, Jerry Lewis, your fucking favorite, weirdos. If that thing came out 3 years after the fucking 50 that you've waited to see it in the first place, if you didn't see it in the theater, you keep waiting, keep hoping. It's a long train ride for those kids. That's all I'm gonna say.
And I mean, no, but I mean, it's honestly, it's like you look at this, and there's the interviews all in there. It's one of those things that a lot of the film festivals, they're where you see the movies, like a lot of the Fox Searchlight movies. They're probably were found on, like we talked about them last week, where they were probably found on, at Sundance, at various film festivals. A lot of these movies, it's where they get found because it's how you get exposure as a young director. Is you make a short film and go there. Now it does change with with the internet and stuff, but even then it's one of those things, like, if you're trying to play to the old fogies, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep doing the young man's game, or are you going to play by the old fogies rule?
Well, they're playing by the theater's rule, which is is
the old fogies.
Support the theaters, although get Movie Pass. That's what I mean, though, is that what the theaters are doing to Cannes is they're making Cannes less relevant to today's audience, which is going to make the theaters less relevant already, and Cannes is going to lose favor, and then another thing is going to open up, and it's going to be the hot new ticket, and people will go to that festival instead, or they'll watch the festival at home on their fucking Roku, as you do.
Yeah,
that's a problem. It's like anything else, is that technology gets us someplace where we're advancing, we're moving forward, and then somebody pops up and says, well, I don't like this. Why don't you? Well, because it's different. yeah, sometimes different is good. Remember when doctors didn't wash their hands and then they would treat you and you get all these great infections because soap wasn't involved? Then somebody said, oh shit, washing our hands improves things greatly. Let's do that. I'm sure some asshole popped up like, I don't want to wash my hands. I just want to operate clean dirt. It just, man, I'm just going to take a crap right on your insides. Some asshole is not who you should be listening to. Move along, man.
Corey, we're some assholes. Don't tell them not to listen to us.
I tell people all the time not to listen to me.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's GNCASTS.com.